Welcome to the I Told You podcast season finale for season 1. I am J. Marcelo Vaquero Alvarez, and I'm going to be talking to you about whatever the media has not been able to tell you for whatever reason they have been derelict. And there's so many people in so many important positions with a platform that they're just not paying attention, speaking in circles. So, as they're failing to explain that to you, I'm telling you that. This is not a podcast for snowflakes, so either if you're on the right or the left side of the spectrum, then it doesn't matter because we're all potentially exploitable, and that is really sad, but that is the reality. So I'm going to be teaching you how to look at the world in a different perspective that is normally hidden, although it is hidden in plain sight. So for today's episode, the last one for this season is going to be beware of the media and politicians' loyalty. Beware of the media and politicians' loyalty. Are they loyal to you? Are they loyal to somebody else? Not everybody of those who you adore and admire happen to have your best interest in mind. So we're going to be talking about that today. If you literally forget everything that we have spoken in these last 9 episodes, please remember this. Authoritarian propagandists are always going to redact the truth. Let me say that again. Authoritarian propagandists are always going to redact the truth. Because if you tell them everything that there is to know in context, you're going to realize that the math does not add up. That's why they redact the truth. So the gaslight is real, and if your favorite talking head on the left or on the right could be very well lying to you, sometimes without even knowing it. And the reality is that since we have a tendency to be more reactive and there's this visceral response, a lot of times people don't really think about what is the truth. They think about how can I win? How can I be the one who is going to not only win this round, but make the other side not just lose, but humiliate them. And both the right and the left, they happen to fall into that category, even if they don't realize it. Because like it or not, both sides, when it comes into the propaganda, are in play. So you could be playing for the propagandist side, wittingly or unwittingly, but also the opposition is being played. So it's not that they're even in the same game. They think that they're actually playing against one another, but there's another layer that people tend to miss, and that is why essentially they're controlling the narratives. And that's why I'm teaching you here, because nobody else seems to really understand that. So the same is true for politicians, okay? Some politicians get elected to serve the USA. Others have so many skeletons in the closet that really the elections are just meant for them to stay out of trouble. So this is the situation, okay? When it comes to the media, the gaslighting is real, okay? Because some might know that they're actually talking shit to you because it's good for the bottom line or it's good for whatever they're actually trying to tell you. But for the politicians, also they're bidding for a re-election campaign, especially in certain offices that there's going to be a revolving door or they are not going to have term limits so they can stay in indefinitely. If you start looking at their voting records, then you're actually going to see that a lot of the things that they're actually saying, they flip-flop over time, depending on what are the reality of the ground, the political ground, what are the clickbait stuff. Before the clickbait, what was the press headlines? All those things, they play a role into how the communication is going to be moving. And some people don't seem to really understand that because, yeah, I know it can be boring. And a lot of people, they haven't even gotten to an area where they were savvy about politics or savvy about history, or they just didn't understand the context. But some of these politicians who have been for decades and decades and decades, you were born already with that person being elected, and then you just continue seeing that person over and over again. You just take for granted, okay, yeah, that politician, yeah, that is the senator for my state, that is the representative for my district, because you don't really understand what was that brought them into that power, and then you don't really understand what is keeping them into that position. Okay, there's always a lot more to the situation, what's going on, that people don't really understand. This being a season finale is probably going to be a longer episode, so if you need to watch it in little chunks, okay, that's fine. But everything that I'm going to be telling you is going to be coming full circle. So from all these episodes, they all come full circle in the sense that there were little lessons that you needed to build upon for you to understand fully what I'm actually trying to tell you into this episode. So if you haven't watched the previous one, finish watching this episode and then start watching them so you can understand what is it that a lot of this information that might seem like it's coming out of left field is not coming out of left field. Everything has been essentially telegraphed, and I'm teaching you to see how that works. So understand another important thing. There's always something called that is known as special interest groups, and if you want to call that the deep state, or you want to call it the puppet masters, or you want to call it whatever the fuck you want to call it, it doesn't matter. This is actually more skewed than what most people really think. Because interestingly enough, those who are actually guilty of being manipulating those things are going to use that as a projection tool to say that whoever is actually innocent, oh, they are doing that. They are doing that. And they're going to be pointing the fingers to somebody who's not actually doing the nefarious activity that they are accusing them of. But the thing is that it's a trick that is old as time. Okay, a I'm going to misdirect you, much like an illusionist does whenever they are on stage. You look just whatever the audience is allowed to see, but you don't get to see what is going on behind how the trick is actually being performed. Does that make sense? And when you see how this trick is being performed, then you see, oh wow, that is actually a really easy mechanism that they utilize in order to deceive everybody else into believing a different reality, or a different perception of reality rather. So that is how it actually works. So the situation with this quote unquote deep state, that is actually the reality of the people who are manipulating those things, or you want to call them the swamp, or you want to call them whatever, epithet that you want to call them, they're actually manipulating the things that actually exist as safeguards, and they flip them around. So then, whenever those rules that are supposed to be holding them accountable, they kind of like brush over through that, through technicality. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that, but I want you to start like thinking a little bit about how this complexity actually comes together. Because politics, like it or not, is not black and white. Some people want to see it, okay, left or right, and they just think that it is an easy, okay, I'm either on this team or the other team. No, it's not like that. It is very complex, and a lot of people don't really seem to understand that. And they both based on party lines, because now they think that the loyalty to the party means that they are de facto correct, even though there's probably a lot of other policies from the other side that they actually like, and they are voting against their own interest. And that is for the voters and for the people who actually been put into certain positions of power. And the same is true for some people who have a microphone and they're talking heads who don't really fucking understand what they're talking about. So, like it or not, this is an important thing that is way outside from the borders of the USA, but it does affect the USA directly. There is a new Cold War. It's called Great Power Competition. It's been brewing for decades. For decades. Okay, we have several adversarial countries. We've been talking about that for the previous episodes, and we haven't actually gotten kinetic yet. Okay, kinetic means we haven't gotten yet into an armed conflict. We haven't actually gotten into war. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, the USA itself directly has not gotten into war. Okay, there have been some proxy wars. There have been boots on the ground, shit like that. That is different. Okay, we haven't actually gotten into an armed conflict the way that these adversarial nations are also trying to avoid. Why? Because they understand that the planet would actually get vaporized the moment that they start attacking us and we start attacking each other. It is not going to be like World War II. It's not going to be like World War One. Okay, that there was a lot of conventional artillery and conventional weapons that, okay, you destroy a city and you flatten out something. No, this is different. We have country and planet destroying weapons. Just in any fucking nuclear submarine, it could essentially destroy the whole fucking nation. It can destroy a whole fucking continent. It can destroy a whole fucking planet several times over. So it is a whole different ballgame. And these nations, they understand that. So how do you defeat a nation, particularly the USA, that has the highest level of readiness and the most power in the entire planet? And not just amount, we're not just talking about the type of weapon systems that we have, the knowledge and the reach and the number of carriers and all the shit. Okay, we have the largest military by far from any other country. So how do you defeat that? From the inside out. That's how you do it. Kind of like guerrilla style, but on steroids. And it starts by defeating the people. In other words, there's was this saying that I like to repeat: the only thing a warship can do on its own is rust. It needs people. Let me say that again. The only thing a warship can do on its own is rust. It needs people to man those different systems. Otherwise, all those weapon systems are just very fancy toys. They're not just going to be working on their own. It needs command and control. It needs somebody to understand how to run these different machines, how they run in tandem. Okay, that goes from the lowest ranking person into the totem pole to the highest person at command and control level, so they actually understand how all the shit gets orchestrated. Okay, so it's very different. Okay, so let me put it this way. Okay, so think about that if you are in a band. Okay, and you are a prodigy guitarist. Okay, and you're really good at playing your fucking guitar. Okay, but the rest of your band sucks, or your bass player just cannot keep time, or your drummer is just a person that starts making only feels instead of actually keeping the rhythm. Okay, so that is the kind of thing that would be destroying this command and control. Does that make sense? So that is the reason why, for example, you get Secretary of Defense. They were already four-star generals or admirals or brigadier generals or whatever, that they have been in the military for a very, very long time, because now they actually have that experience. They understand certain things that a junior officer or even a senior enlisted is not going to be able to understand in certain levels, because they are not always invited to those particular levels of decision. Now, actually, funny thing, a senior enlisted person is probably going to have a lot more knowledge than a junior officer. Yeah, and some people are going to say, like, well, that fucking doesn't make sense. Well, let me tell you one thing, okay? I was a senior chief in the Navy, and guess what our job was? To train the junior officers. We have different career paths, okay? We're specialists in whatever we actually do. But we teach the officers to understand certain things that they wouldn't normally have to deal with, okay? Because there's the portion that it goes above, a certain line whenever you're actually kind of like putting the whole thing together. But somebody has to make sure that those different work centers are actually working properly. That is what the enlisted side essentially does. They are specialists in whatever their understanding of how a particular piece of the puzzle works, and then the officers are going to have like some sort of a specialty, but they have to have a different understanding that's going to be a little bit more global. So they both actually have to understand both of those sides, and the reason is because nobody has all the answers. Just doesn't matter how smart you are never going to have all those answers. So, for example, Trump having all these very questionable picks for his cabinet, that is very concerning, because he doesn't really understand that not all the answers are going to be just inside that cabinet. That cabinet also needs to understand how the process works, but it's not a time to have an on-the-job training. That is only good for an adversarial nation. You have to already know this shit by the time that you get there. Does that make sense? So if you're going to be a brain surgeon, okay, it's not that you're going to be starting to learn how to fucking operate a brain the very first moment that you have an open skull in front of you to save that life. That's not how it works. Okay, there's going to be some level of experience before you actually get to that point. Same thing if you're going to be an airline pilot. It's not that you're just going to be jumping into the cockpit the first time and be in charge of the largest fucking plane to land in a challenging airport. It is not how it works. There has to be a level of experience. And if you put people who don't have that level of experience, guess who wins? The adversarial nations, because they are putting people who have that level of experience. This is not hard to understand. So this problem with this great power competition, this new Cold War that we've been seeing, it has been eroding our understanding of how to run this command and control. The command and control, when we're talking about the people, the chain of command, and the doctrines. Okay, that's what I mean. You need to learn that. Okay, it's an easy thing. Okay, sounds like a nice buzzword. C2, command and control. Yeah, it's pretty. No, there's a lot of science behind that, and that's what we're talking about. So the adversarial forces want to destroy the USA from the inside out. And how that start again? By dividing our people. But that is not just the people who are civilians out there. It's the people inside the military. It's the people who are supposed to be holding certain rules. It's the people who are actually supposed to be speaking truth to power. Okay? That is a very important thing. Speaking truth to power when you have any position. You have to be able to say, hey, boss, that doesn't make sense. You have a blind spot. Let's address that. and you have to have the authority to do that. But if you surround yourself only with loyalists, people that are just yes men and yes women, and they're just like becoming to this echo chamber, your blind spots are going to remain blind. You're going to continue making certain mistakes, or you're not even going to see those as mistakes until it's too late. And that is what the adversarial forces want. That is how they destroy you from the inside out. So, in other words, people are going to be dividing and hijacking those virtues and those biases, and they're going to weaponize them. Okay. So, as I was telling you, everybody has biases. We all have blind spots. We all have like something that it could sway us in one way to the other. And we all have virtues, and sometimes those virtues can be weaponized, because let's say that it's your patriotism or your faith, and that it becomes a blind faith if somebody actually challenges you. That is going to be incredibly dangerous, because you're not actually going to understand that sometimes you don't really have all the answers. Maybe your faith is not the correct one, because faith means that you take something at face value. And a lot of people, if you actually insult their faith, even by mistake, in your point of view, and say, "Hey, I don't know, maybe did you think about this in your religion? That doesn't actually kind of make sense." They get incredibly offended, and anything else is going to be a moot point. They're just going to stop listening, because how dare you insult my faith? Okay, so that happens right now. If you have a person who is in a cabinet position, that their faith or whatever the way that they see the world is just based on that little contingent, you have lost. That is exploitable. That is highly exploitable, either by adulation or by making the person get angry. Okay, there is not going to be a very objective point to see if you're actually doing the correct thing or you're not doing the correct thing, if you're willing to get blinded by that. So one of those things, is, for example, do you have, I don't know, like different tattoos that are actually moving your understanding of particular faith? Yeah, that could actually be a huge red flag. Why is that? Because you might actually have a proclivity to make a decision based on something that is very, very personal to you, and negate all the different information that is out there. That is incredibly dangerous, but it is incredibly convenient for an adversarial force. So I told you this, and I repeat it several times. Authoritarians redact the truth. Okay, they are going to be serving you a diet of easy to remember talking points, so you feel like you are the smartest person in the room, and they're meant to make people feel smart. They make them feel, okay, I know all this shit. It's quantity versus quality. So yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none, but hey, I have a lot of understanding on all these wedge issues. And if any fucking liberals or any rhinos or any MAGA or any whoever, the group that I need to talk to against, I can defend my own and I can defend my points of view. What they don't really understand is that there's a lot that they don't actually understand. Okay? They don't understand what they don't understand, and that is incredibly dangerous. And I know for some people, they're not actually going to understand, because that's a little bit more of a varsity level of thinking. You say, well, I understand what I understand, and what I understand, that should be enough. It's not. It is never enough. Okay? Why? Because adversarial forces and propagandists are going to redact the truth. In other words, the correct answer is going to seem counterintuitive to you. You're going to think that you have all the fucking answers, but you don't. You don't have all the answers. As a matter of fact, you're actually very likely being given specific things for you, not just to say and repeat obediently and verbatim, but how to think. It actually changes the way that you think, the way that you perceive reality. The human mind is very, very, very fragile in that. And the propagandists, they understand how to do that. Okay. And there's different ways that they use it even in marketing. Okay. They're going to be change your behavior as far as how you're going to be buying certain type of items, even in the grocery store. There's certain science for this. And as I tell you in a previous episode, if you don't think that propagandists are going to be using similar principles, then you're fucking stupid. Okay. That means that you're fucking naive. There's an entire world hidden in plain sight that most people just take for granted. That's what I was telling you at the end of the last episode. Don't ever take your freedom for granted, because a lot of people who did, they lost it. And this is important, okay? Because whenever you understand about how this dissemination of these points is done via their media outlets, that can be both for friendly and unfriendly outlets. I told you a little bit earlier that a propagandist is going to play both sides, while both sides they think that they're actually playing one another. Okay, but there's an external force that is actually moving the entire thing. Kind of like if you're watching, I don't know, like a game or a cockfight. Okay, and there's two roosters just killing each other. Who's actually benefiting from that? It's not those two roosters fucking slaughtering each other. It's going to be whoever's making those bets behind their suffering. That is the same thing. That's how it works. That's how adversarial propaganda works. It pins these two groups against one another. And the good guys, they think that they're actually saying something correct and they end up talking in circles, while the bad guys are actually pandering to this whoever is controlling this entire event, while they're both suffering and none of them are in control of their lives. That is how the game is fucking played. So that's for friendly and friendly. Okay, so for the friendly outlets, okay, to the propagandists, okay, so whoever the friendly, the ones that are actually obediently repeating those talking points, they could very well be in the pockets of these misinformation campaigns, either wittingly or unwittingly. We were talking about witting and unwitting insider threats. Witting insider threat is the one that is actually doing something nefarious against their own team knowingly, and they are doing it knowing that they are actually sabotaging them. An unwitting insider threat does exactly the same thing, but they're too stupid to realize that they're doing the same thing. Okay, so that is the difference. In some of these friendly outlets, they happen to fall into that insider threat category. Either witting or unwitting, it doesn't matter because they're going to be playing ball in order to legitimize those lies. And some people are just going to be taking them at face value because they're going to have a clout. Okay, the adversarial forces, the propagandist is always not going necessarily after the outlet itself. Those are incidental. They're going after the clout. They're going after the followers. For example, when Tucker Carlson was talking with Vladimir Putin, do you think that he actually gave a fuck about Tucker Carlson? No, he didn't. He cared about his clout. If Putin is talking to the MAGA crowd through Trump, does he give a shit about Trump? No, he catered to the MAGA crowd. He actually used particular talking points that are very much resonating with the way that they see the world. Traditional family values, anti-gay rhetoric, anti-immigration. Oh, you should be taking care of your border. Don't be thinking about fucking Ukraine. That shit, okay, it panders to them, okay, but they don't really understand because it already kind of concurs with whatever the other outlets of choice have been. Some asshole with a fucking Twitter account that is like putting all kinds of stupid memes, or being somebody with a very flashy a TV show on cable television, or being somebody that has a fucking influencer type accounts and they're just having podcasts and shit. Yeah, that happens. So it creates a layered effect that people are going to be thinking, okay, this is my friendly outlet. And they seem to concur with that because they're all are giving the same script. Well, no shit. But it is still a lie. So whenever you actually go and talk to another outlet outside that bubble, then you're going to say, hey, they're not talking about the same talking point that they were telling me, so they must be lying. When you don't really start realizing that, no, chances are that if they all share this same script, and at some point they have really flip-flopping those fucking lies at some point, or they keep moving the goalposts, then chances are that their reality was never accurate. However, that creates a cognitive dissonance because now you like that outlet. And I like that talking head, and I like that pretty girl with a fucking skirt that she sits on the side on this TV show, and I like that other person how she owns the lives, and I like that. And then you find out that there's a contradicting story that kind of actually makes sense. That is terrifying for a lot of people because they, well, if I'm wrong about that, what the fuck else am I wrong about? And that is terrifying because now it's like, okay, I was telling everybody, even my boss and my friends and my mom and my dad and whoever, that we're not into this wavelength, that they were fucking stupid and I hate them and fucking cut them out of my lives, or even got fired or got in Facebook jail or whatever the fuck, was the case. I did all that. And they were right. And they were right about this one thing. If they were right about this one thing, shit, they might be right about a whole bunch of other things. So what is easier? Just to look away, just to walk around to the other side when everybody else seems to be believing the same bullshit that you were led to believe. And that's how the echo chambers become more and more and more and more stubborn. They don't want to listen because it's not that you actually don't disagree necessarily with what the opposition is saying. But if you own to that one, now you have to own not just to one mistake. Chances are that there were hundreds of mistakes. Why? Because they gave you hundreds of talking points that you concurred blindly just because all those outlets that they were friendly to you, they were repeating to you exactly what you wanted to hear. But I told you that the propagandists, they also played the non-friendly outlets as well. So what they do is they are going to make them fall into traps. The bad guys are always several steps ahead. Remember, I told you, okay, so you have this cockfight. You have these two roosters, they're fucking killing each other. But whoever was putting this venue together, whoever was setting those bets, they already knew what was going to happen before and after those fucking two roosters go and kill each other. So they do the same thing to these media forces. Okay, they have them into this fucking arena just killing each other, and they think that is the other side. My enemy is that other rooster that's fucking killing me. Yeah, that is true to a certain point because they are pretty much being adversarial at that point. But you don't realize that the real enemy is the one that's fucking out there making the bets against you and the other one. So that is the problem. They keep falling into this trap, and there's an actual playbook that is very well known around the fucking world, very new to the USA, but it's very known around the world, and they fail to understand this situation. And when they fail to understand this situation, what do? They're actually giving credence to the other side. They are giving credence to what the propagandist actually wants to give credence to. I told you this in a previous episode. The adversarial forces, they need to have a foe. They need to have an enemy. Why? Because it becomes a scapegoat. Is that misdirection? Don't look at what I'm fucking doing. I'm making the bets in this cockfight, and having you two motherfucker chickens, fucking kill at each other. Okay. But don't look at the people out there. Look at each other. While this other one's trying to kill you, you're going to be kill each other. And that is why they fucking remain reactive. And it's fucking stupid. It drives me fucking nuts. And I've been telling these people, Pod Save America, if you see that shit, you've been doing that shit. And I've been telling you fucking a lot of times. Same thing I'm fucking telling you to Pod Save the World. You're not fucking saving the world by saying, I think about this. No, what the fuck do you know? That's what you have to say. And we'll talk about that. Because I told you, I'm going to hold you motherfuckers accountable. Why? Because you have the biggest fucking voice and you're not using it correctly. And you're falling into this trap all the fucking time. It's just so fucking frustrating. And that's why now I actually fucking have to do a goddamn podcast. Because you motherfuckers are not actually listening to this fucking simple thing. You would have been able to control the narrative, but you're not. Okay, so when it comes to politicians who are on the wrong side, there is because they're likely under duress and they're going to have to fall back in line, okay? Let's see, like any politician, that, for example, anybody who was talking shit about Trump before he got elected and then they fell right in line, behind him. Why is that? Probably because they have some shit on him. They're going to join them. Hey, you want to talk super macho about this thing? Yeah, here, let me show you all the fucking skeletons that I have for you, and it's going to fuck up your campaign. It's going to be having all these scandals, they're just going to get you to pretty much lose, or I'm going to humiliate you, or anything that you're saying, it actually was like bullshit, and you either had to own out to that. So that happens. It could very well be that they're under duress, but it can also be duress that it depends on the person, okay? Because sometimes it could actually be some other type of coercion, like a lot of these kind of bad actors that are out there that are controlling, again, like this cockfight, they're actually killing each other, like those who are actually pinning them against one another. They already know who is who in the zoo and who has some sort of skeletons in the closet, and they're going to leverage that as much as they want. So there's not going to be short of corruption and skeletons in politicians' closets. And yeah, a lot of these scandals could very well derail their career. And the problem now is that since the USA has become this reality show for so many fucking years, a lot of people, they don't even listen to those scandals. It just becomes numb, something that would have been taking the front page and it would have been the talk for the entire, not just the nation, but the entire planet. It's just like, okay, it's just one other meme in the fucking entire chain of events that you're actually scrolling past and not even like understanding what's going on because the headline was not explosive enough, or maybe it's because the friendly outlets they didn't want necessarily to talk about that, and the unfriendly outlets they don't really know how to articulate it because they were reactive instead of being proactive about the situations that could have actually thwarted that situation to happen. How do you thwart it? You're not looking into the future. It is being telegraphed. It's kind of like they tell you that this is going to happen. You just have to understand the indicators so you can actually predict. Oh yeah, if I'm in this trajectory that goes from A to B, and you haven't quite make it to B, but you're in the same fucking road. At some point, you can actually say, okay, time, distance, yeah, probably going to be arriving at that point. So maybe let's put a roadblock before that, so they cannot make it to the destination. It is not really that fucking hard to understand, but that's what I was telling you. Authoritarians are always going to redact the truth. And that is too by design, because much like that gish galloping that I was telling you, they just throw all these different talking points. People can only track just a few things at the time, and they just cannot really understand, what's going on. And these scandals then it becomes a clickbait. And that's one of the reasons why I actually segmented this podcast in the way that I did. Okay, because I know that there's a lot of information that we actually need to talk, even though this is actually really, 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 really bare bones into the whole scheme of things. But it's going to be helping you understand, okay, how to fish, how to actually understand what is behind that. Because that could be just talking about a particular issue and just nuke it to the point that you go, okay, wow, that there's a lot to say about this particular scandal or about this particular situation. But that's not really going to help you understand the whole process. It's just going to help you understand that one particular factor. And I'm saying a factor because they're multipliers, okay? They're going to be adding the whole equation to a much more complex ecosystem that, of course, is going to be very overwhelming. People are going to be thinking about that. It's not like, oh, shit, it's going to hurt your head just even thinking about that. And the other thing that it's going to be doing is going to actually make you feel like, okay, fuck it, I'll just give up, just lower my head down and just let them fucking blow my brains out because, what else am I going to do? They have already lost. No, the only way that they lose is if you surrender. If you surrender your thoughts, if you surrender your understanding. Willful ignorance is tacit consent for somebody else to take over your life. So don't be willfully ignorant. It's simply that easy. But to understand that context, you have to understand what is behind that. That's why I've been created all these resources for you so you can actually see it, because it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. So I'm just helping you to have it like in little sips so you understand what is this entire level of complexity that everybody seems to be missing. So the non-corrupt politicians also fall for this trap because they are playing by the rules, while those who break the rules just run circles around them. Okay, let's go back, to this cockfight arena situation. Okay, you have both roosters, and they're like fucking killing each other, and one of those has some sort of fucking weapon, into their fucking claws, and the other one doesn't. Which one do you think is gonna get slaughtered faster? The one that is not playing by the rules, the one that fucking has something in the freaking legs, that's going to be slaughtered. The other, the other rooster. That's what is happening. So I'm not saying to break the rules, but you have to be able to understand to call them out before they break the rules, so you can actually expose them in a way that say like, hey, that is not actually happening, and what it would be if the other side is doing. Because why? You don't want to turn the other rooster against them. You want to turn that audience that is betting on that arena against them. Those are the voters. Those are the voters, okay? That arena, those are the voters. You want them to see the hypocrisy, but you cannot just say, oh, he said that, you said that, blah, blah. No, you have to actually demonstrate it. It has to be dumbed down to the point that they actually understand how it resonates on them to believe it on the first place. Now, granted, that is going to be a lot harder because telling a lie, it's a lot easier than telling what is the reality about the truth. Okay, some asshole could just go say, we've never gotten to the moon. And trying to disprove that is going to take a lot more effort because even if you're just talking about the Apollo programs and you're talking about the millions of dollars that actually had to be invested into creating the rockets and to all the companies that had to work together and bringing all the different people that are across the country to assemble these rockets and to send them up there, and the science and the probes they had to send before and all that shit, that already, even telling you that without even getting into the weeds, it is a lot more sentences than just saying one sentence, we never went to the moon. Does that make sense? So proving that level of ignorance is always going to take a lot more bandwidth, is going to be taking a lot more effort. And of course, those who just want to believe whatever is the easiest thing, yeah, they're willful ignorant because they don't want to actually necessarily understand what is the reality. But if you find a way that is actually going to resonate on them, so for example, so explain to me why do you think that it is false? Just frame that question, okay? Instead of actually saying, no, it's because, we had the Apollo program and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they don't give a shit about that. They just pose that question. Why do you think is that? And whenever they tell you that, then ask them to give you the rationale. And obviously, it is going to be frustrating. They're going to have a lot of false leads that they're just going to continue going. And you attack them on that level. Hit them into that logical conclusion. Have them realize themselves. Why is it that they're actually misinformed? Then they're going to start realizing, oh shit. Also, so it does make sense, that they have all these things. So it's not just a cover up. It's not just to try to, I don't know, put it in a TV studio. All those things, of course, are going to be harder than putting that lie. That's why they say, a lie already has circled the world a few times before the fucking truth gets a chance to put their pants on. Okay. That is why propaganda is so effective, because it puts people into believing stupid little talking points and have them repeat them verbatim. So the other thing that politicians also they miss is because the bad guys are going to be using all the loopholes. They're going to be pushing the limits, not on the merits, but on the technicalities. It's not even going to say like, oh yeah, I didn't fucking do that. It's like, well, technically I committed that crime, but fuck it. The statutes of limitations already expired. So yeah, you shouldn't prosecute me for that. That doesn't mean that you didn't do it. You say that, oh yeah, you were just not quick enough to tell me about that. Now, how fucked up is that? Because it's not that they're actually not telling you that. It's out there. Now, the problem is that a lot of people who are enamored with their own team, they're going to think, oh yeah, that's a sick burn. Yeah, that is a good argument. It's not a good argument. It's a really bad argument. It is an argument designed to tell stupid people who are very ignorant that they have it all figured out. There's an easy way out. It's not a correct argument. It's simply not. But propaganda is not made for smart people. It's made for dumber people, okay? Or make smart people dumber by lowering that bar. Okay? You understand? It lowers the bar. So the politicians who break the rules, they outmaneuver the other side pretty much easily. As I say, they use it kind of like a sick burn, because it panders to the less informed segment of their constituency. And all those people, it's going to be like the movie Idiocracy, when they are going to be, oh yeah, you are dumb. The other person who actually knows what it is, they're going to treat them as they're dumb because they're too fucking dumb to understand why the person who's calling the other person dumb is actually dumb. That is what is happening. It is being part of this erosion of the USA little by little, this great power competition that I'm telling you, it attacks the person, makes them stupider without them really realizing it. So that is how it happens, because now the smart people become inconvenient to those propagandists who are essentially running circles, really pandering to the stupid people because they don't really realize, okay? So understand this. We all can be stupid at some point. Nobody knows everything. That doesn't make you lesser than anybody else. You know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. It makes you human. You know what is the cure for ignorance? Knowledge. If you don't know something, if you have a blind spot, oh shit, you point that blind spot to me, now I don't have a blind spot anymore. Now I know what I'm looking at. That is what is supposed to happen in government. Because let's say Trump now, he just put yes man people into his cabinet and he has a blind spot. And instead of saying, hey, boss, you have a blind spot over there that is going to fuck up America, he say, oh, you say jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, and we're going to do that exactly like that? Like there's a senator who said that. That's what exactly Trump told them to do. What are you really doing for the country? Who are you really working for? But you're not working for the country. You're working for Trump. You're supposed to be a co-equal branch of government to hold him accountable. And I would expect the same thing if Kamala would have won. If somebody was just be a rubber stamp, I would be saying exactly the same fucking thing that I'm telling you right now. Because you are supposed to be able to speak truth to power, because it doesn't matter how fucking smart one person is, you are going to have a wider level of understanding as far as what's around you. Does that make sense? It should make sense, but I know that is really cryptic to a lot of people. But what the propagandists are going to be doing, they're going to artificially lower that understanding. So, in order to control the bulk of the population, whatever it is easier, just to tell you something that is stupid and make people believe about that. It is easier to make a person understand something that is not real because it is a shorter sentence. It's just fucking physics like that. Shortened sentence. We never landed on the moon. It's a lie, but it fits really easily in a fucking bumper sticker. If it's very easily in a fucking meme, it feels very easily in a fucking chant. Now say, yes, we did because of X, Y, and Z. That already takes a lot more room, even physically on the words, to actually try to explain how is that the other person is wrong. Does that make sense? That is how you start dumbing down people more and more, make them lose that understanding, the critical thinking, and that intellectual honesty. A person can have critical thinking and still be an idiot. You need that intellectual honesty in order to make sure that both of those things come together. So the question you should be asking to these politicians and these corrupt media personalities who are wittingly or unwittingly working for the adversarial forces is, who do you work for? Who do you really work for? Who do you really work for? Media, politicians. Who do you work for? Are you working for the American people? If you're an American, or are you working for the adversarial forces? And if you are not sure if you're working for the other forces or the adversarial forces, then you should be asking yourself, how is that decision benefiting the adversarial forces? In other words, think about if you're like playing pool, but you don't know how to play pool. Okay, you're just like hitting the balls and hopefully something goes into the holes. If you don't know what you're doing, what did you just did? Okay, you might actually get a ball or two, inside the fucking holes, but your play could actually make it easier for the next person to take over you. That is what the role of the politicians and the media that have a higher level of reach is supposed to be. They're supposed to be our eyes and balls. They have to be able to understand that strategy. And if they're not understanding that strategy because they're yes men and yes women to a particular person who is actually benefiting an adversarial forces, then you're not working for the USA. You're working for that other person, not just even the person that you think you're pandering to, but that person who is actually also becoming a puppet for another force. That is what you need to understand. There are a lot of traders who are going to drape themselves in American symbols. They are also going to hijack your convictions. And that is not just unusual for the USA. Okay? They do the same thing with any populist nation. They're going to be draping themselves into whatever nationalistic insignias they have. And they're going to be making all kinds of merch, and some of that is going to be very vulgar against the other person, even though it's actually wearing some of those patriotic symbols. And they don't fucking understand that if the other person would be doing that, or if the opposition would be doing that, they themselves would be going, what the fuck? That is disrespect to those patriotic symbols. That is disrespect to my faith. That's disrespect to whatever I'm doing. But since it's their guy, it's my guy, then it's fine. If it's the other guy, yeah, fuck you. You cannot do that. Why is that? I told you before. It's because when a person realizes that maybe they're on the wrong team, they're going to get more stubborn into their own mistake. They don't want to have somebody tell them, hey, I'm wrong about that. No, fuck that. I cannot be wrong. Because if I'm wrong about this thing, I'll probably have to undo a whole bunch of other mistakes, and I'm not ready to get to that point. That is cowardice. You're a coward if you do that. So just so you know, in case you haven't realized, you need to own to your mistakes. That is real fortitude of character. If you can own to whatever you fucked up. But the propagandists, they know that what are your catalysts? What are the flashpoints? What is actually going to get your juices going? What are your biases going to get exploited? They know, they really understand that, and they know that you're going to get into that point, and you don't really want to feel it because it's going to hurt. It is really going to hurt you if you get exposed. But they just need to get a person like halfway there, okay? So they don't even need to get them all the way in there. They just need to create useful fools. They just put them into a certain point where they just broadcast this message, like as far as wide as possible, with whatever media that resonates with them. And then, if they have the proclivity to repeat certain lies, they're going to do their work for themselves. They're going to be attacking on radios or in TV shows or in social media, whatever the fucking they sat to talk shit. They're going to do it. They're also going to be told to do that a lot of times. They're going to be instructed. They're going to feel vindicated that they're actually supposed to be doing that. Hey, say some pro-Trump, anti-left into any of that media. I'm going to show you in some of the shorts that I'm going to be doing later on exactly that, because that's exactly what they were telling them. And that's probably what you got spammed by a whole bunch of people anytime that you comment something that they were going over there, because they received specifically that directive, because they felt vindicated that they were supposed to be doing that, because now they are part of a team, supposedly the winning team. What they don't realize is that there are those two fucking roosters that are like killing each other while somebody's making bets on their lives. And as I say, the useful fools are not only those working directly for the adversary, but also those who oppose them in the trap. That's why I keep using this cockfight situation. Okay, they're like fighting each other while somebody else is making those bets. That is exactly what happens. People don't really understand that, and you need to understand what is going on with that, because it is your life, and it's the life of the next generations that is being hijacked by the decisions you take today. If you make a decision that is not fully informed. So, for example, like when you repeat controversial talking points to a larger audience, guess what is going to happen? Okay, like if you are the good guys and you are showing a particular clip of the adversarial forces or by a politician or by a talking head that says something stupid, you just gave them a larger platform. You just made it maybe palatable for some of the morons out there who actually are kind of like in that level. And since they don't like you because, you're the enemy of the people and you are saying, kind of pointing that out, is going to actually backfire. Because now they're actually going to start looking more into that other person that you thought you were giving them a sick burn, and they're going to be following them. They're going to be getting more into that echo chamber. And that's why I'm saying, whenever you are playing it that way, you're actually going to fall into the trap. Instead of actually being proactive, you are becoming reactive. Oh, look at what they did. Look at what they done. No, it's what could they be doing next? And it's based on these other metrics. That is what you need to be showing, so you can actually stop them from doing those things. And the moment that they do it, now you can go, I told you that's the next fucking movement that you were going to do. And then it stopped them. No, this is the other thing, because they might not even make that other move because now you stop them from doing it. Does that make sense? So call them out early so they won't be able to do that. Oh, you're going to getting a whole bunch of people that are just loyalists to you because you work for the other side. Prove me fucking wrong. Get somebody who's actually fucking qualified. How about that? I don't see the media doing that. I'm seeing them fucking reactive. And even when they get some incredibly bad choice, they only say, oh, President Trump put this and this person, okay, to be nominated for this position. No more context. Normalize. Okay, well, it could be, Do you understand what you're fucking really saying? If you have the platform, you have a responsibility to make sure that you give context. Otherwise, you are just helping the adversarial forces. That's what you're doing. Said this a little bit earlier, but the media personalities, a lot of them, they just tend to say, I think this. What do you think, Dummy? What do you think this? What do you think that? Shut the fuck up with the I think. I think implies that there's an opinion and it's at the same level as facts. Don't give a shit what you think. You have to say what you know. Otherwise, you remain misinformed and you're keeping your audience misinformed. I think this is going to happen. I think it's I think it's indefinite. It's not measurable. And that helps the other people that they are going to actually assert, I know, even though it is not true. So erase, especially you, Pod Save America, Pod Save the fucking world, all you crooked media podcasts. Stop saying I think. You have to say I know and be able to show why you know. Why? Because you had the largest fucking podcast platform in the progressive world. So if you're going to be trying to pander to that side, you have to tell them what is the reality, not that opinions are on the same fucking level as facts. You understand that? I'm going to make that in a short. Hopefully, fucking listen, because I know that at this moment you're probably not going to hear almost an hour into that. But that is the problem. That's why you fall into that trap. You follow into that trap because you don't really understand how that works. So, however, knowing means that you have to prove with empirical evidence. You have to be able to show, okay, this is my train of thought. It's based on this and this and this and that, on this and this and these sources. Here, that is what it is. Not what I think. It's what do you know, okay? We're not at the point of think right now. It's too dangerous right now to equate facts with opinions. That's not how the world works right now. If it is true, no matter how you measure it, all those factors are going to come together automatically. Everything is going to add up perfectly. That's what you need to show. And show how the other facts don't actually fucking add up. That's why you have a fucking big platform. Because a lie, no matter how well crafted, the math will never add up. It never adds up. There's going to be some blind spots. That's what you need your staffs to do. That's what you need your researchers to do. That's what you need to have before you actually put that microphone, to be able to tell them, this is not true because of that. Not, I think this, I think that, yeah, that's good for padding time, okay? But that is not actually fucking going to give you information that you need to know. Because when you're listening to your talking heads or politicians, you maybe adore them, but you also have to hold them accountable. And that is both if you're on the left or on the right. If they're fucking up, you have to tell them, hey, that was not what my vote was for. My vote was for you to be following these and these and these and these rules that you promised that there were these and these and these and these, and what was actually the reality. But a lot of people, they just vote because, okay, I just know the name. Or I just understand that, or I don't like the other guy or the other gal for whatever reason, but you don't really understand the truth because, okay, I don't follow anybody else from the other side. I don't actually listen to the other person from the other side. Then you don't have an educated understanding of what the other side is actually saying. You are only having an educated understanding of what you are perceiving from your own talking heads, and your own talking heads, they could very well be fucking falling from the same fucking traps. And now you're repeating the same bullshit without actually understanding. Do you understand? Having a platform is a huge responsibility because, like it or not, your words are going to resonate with somebody. Even though my platform at this point is actually tiny, I take this very seriously. And I'm doing this thing not because I wanted to do it, but I'm frustrated that I reached to all these other platforms and they didn't fucking do it. And they're still not doing it. They still continue having this problem. I comment on that shit. Do I hear from them? No, not one fucking time. They haven't even responded. And what is the problem? The problem is that even if they have fucking like 3 people engaging in Facebook, like crooked media, and I tell them something, I give them some, do I hear anything back from them? No. And I know they have staff. I'm just a fucking one-man show and I'm doing this thing. I did a whole fucking season, the whole fucking week, just to push this thing, just for you guys, for what nobody's actually telling you. But I'm just one person. Just imagine if I would have been able to have at least some help. But I'm not getting that help, even though I'm actually trying to help them. Still to this point. But the problem is that when a platform is speaking lies, okay, even if they're like this a friendly platform that is placating for the authoritarian, it's still short-lived. That aid propaganda is only going to get short-term rewards. They're going to be disposable the very moment that they become inconvenient, and they're trapped forever for that. Because all those skeletons in the closet that they were trying to hide, they're going to now not just be hidden, they're going to be holding those hostage for them. So they're never actually going to be moving forward from that situation. Unless, it's going to be mafia style situation. Either, they sink with the ship with less shoes, or they are going to be essentially becoming the scapegoat. That is the problem. That's why you have to understand. The reality is that truth is always going to speak for itself. It doesn't matter how you try to hide it. There's going to be some way that the truth is going to come out. Even if it is not in your lifetime, it will come out. That's how we know a lot of the things that many of the criminals throughout history they were trying to hide, and we found it because there's different ways to measure. There's different ways to get to the truth when it is real. You understand? Okay. So, for example, if a person that relies on organized crime, yeah, they might help them with the clout. We've seen that organized crime. They are only worth until they have to eliminate a threat. So you're not really fixing your situation. And that is one of the things that some of these people they need to understand. If they're not working for the USA and they're actually helping the adversarial nation for whatever reason because they're trying to protect themselves and they're eroding the mechanisms that we have in order to not just help themselves, but help the rest of the country for future generations. They're not even just helping themselves. They're not just even being selfish for their own interest. They're being selfish for the entire interest of the USA, and they're not fixing the problem. They're still not fixing the problem unless they own up to their own mistakes. They're not fixing the problem. And they have to understand also if they are witting or are unwitting inside the threat so they can speak about that while we still have a fucking country left. And this is true if the organized crime that we're seeing, which is essentially what we're seeing at the largest scale, is domestic or foreign adversarial that's involved. And this the media and politicians, if they're under duress, they need to speak out. Yeah, they might actually be embarrassed. They might actually have to face some legal consequences. But what is the alternative? They're selling the USA. They're selling the USA. That's the alternative if they are under duress. If they're not under duress and they're doing that wittingly, that is treason. Which one is it then? Why would you be repeating adversarial talking points wittingly or unwittingly? You have to understand that. So even if they do bear some responsibility, okay, there are safeguards in the USA. That's why we have some checks and balances, and there's all these other groups of people that are actually want to destroy those safeguards. Who do you think that is actually benefiting from that? The adversarial nations, not the USA, not even the same people who are trying to destroy those safeguards. Okay, they might feel safe right now because they are quote unquote in the club. Yeah, until they become disposable because they were disposable the entire time. They were just useful fools. I would ask many politicians who are repeating these talking points verbatim because, yes, they repeat adversarial talking points verbatim. Are you selling the USA to save yourself from your own mistakes? Politicians and media, are you selling the USA to save yourself from your own mistakes? Or if you're under duress and a loved one is being actually intimidated, won't you think that your position, your clout right now would actually help flipping the script? Yeah, there might be some consequences, but if you erode those consequences, you're just hitting yourself. You're hitting even everybody else that you would be able to help. I said that in episode 2 that we're about to become a Russian province just coming January. Unless those who are elected and those who hold the administration accountable actually start speaking truth to power properly. Stop being reactive. We don't have time. We already lost time with that. This would have been true even if they were from the right or the left side of the spectrum. Okay, so if Kamala was victorious for whatever reason and she was starting to get these questionable cabinet positions, I would be saying exactly the same things. I'm an independent. I'm not a fucking liberal. Okay, I'm not a fucking leftist. I hold each side accountable. I am an American, and I work for America, and that's why I'm speaking, using my First Amendment right while it still exists, because it could fucking very well be gone, because those people who are supposed to protect it are not working for our best interest, even if they don't fucking realize it. And you should be able to understand why is it the urgency than actually fucking making a whole fucking podcast for this shit. Okay? Because people are not really thinking about these things. These conversations, this level of sanity is not actually happening. And it should be happening. But if you're an American, you need to have an American government, not an adversarial government that is ruling by proxy. I told you in a previous episode, if you think that Trump is in charge, he's not in charge. The first thing that Putin did after he won was place in pretty much all the state media during prime time naked pictures of his wife, Melania Trump, showing naked while the commentators are fucking giggling. That is a power move. How can you not be actually telling the other adversarial regimes, hey, the fuck, dude? In any fucking way they have. Because Trump has no problem speaking tough to anybody. I'm sure that if he listens this shit to me, he's going to start fucking lighting me up, okay? Yeah, how about this? If you want to talk to me or anybody else really tough, do the same thing to Putin. Don't cower like you fucking did in Helsinki. Prove that shit. Because yeah, you said that you were also going to stop fucking the war in Ukraine in 24 hours as soon as you got elected. Yeah, you got elected 2 weeks ago, even it fucking feels like it's been years. Where is it? Where's the resolution? We're actually worse now than we were before. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to be writing 1,004 days since the conflict started in Ukraine. I'm going to be writing an article about that. And you haven't fixed it. Have you fixed it? No, you haven't. Why? Because you're Putin's bitch. You're not Putin's bitch? Prove it. Get actually cabinet members that are going to show you that you are not their bitch. Or does he have shit on you? He doesn't? Prove it. Yeah, that's going to be a lot harder to do. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That means that you're supposed to be having fully qualified people who will speak truth to power in those cabinet positions. You don't know everything. You're really easily dissuaded by adulation or by fucking criticism. You're very thin skinned. You're going to start like fucking being like a kid. We see that. I see it, and the whole rest of the fucking world see it. And if you don't think that fucking Putin has seen that, then you're fucking stupid. So you need to learn now. You have been elected. Are you going to be in charge of the country, or are you going to let him run our country through you? Because right now you're repeating all his adversarial talking points. You're repeating all the things verbatim, and all your acolytes are doing exactly the same thing. Who do you work for? Do you work for the American people or not? You were drafted, right? Make America great again? Again when? Again when? Because right now, you're not making it great. You're making Russia definitely great again. Understand that? Prove it otherwise. If you don't do that, only the adversarial forces win. The adversarial forces win, and they're winning because a lot of America, they seem to be oblivious to the fact that the invasion actually started long ago, and that is not what I'm talking about necessarily from the southern border, because that is not really the case. The invasion actually started through the media ecosystem, the ones that are actually essentially becoming a rubber stamp to the adversarial talking points, and to corrupt politicians who are doing exactly the same thing. But they just probably don't really understand that they're actually doing it. And that is the biggest problem that I keep seeing, and it keeps happening. And it should be heartbreaking, but it's not necessarily just heartbreaking, but it is happening at an accelerated rate. So who is who into this corrupt ecosystem? Who is correct? Who's not correct? Well, do your homework. That's actually what I want you to do with this podcast. I want you to really start looking into the people who you actually thought that you trust them. Doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right. I want you to really start thinking about what they're actually saying and what they're actually doing. All your favorite talking heads. And whenever you hear them say anything, I want you to ask yourself this question. How does this action benefit an adversarial regime? How does this action benefit an adversarial regime? That is the question that you have to be asking. If you see somebody that is not trying to release an ethics report, how does that affect an adversarial regime? Is that good for them or is it bad for them? Yes, it is really good for them. How does this cabinet position that doesn't seem to have enough understanding about this particular level of information that is required for this position, it's going to benefit another regime? Yeah, if the person doesn't have the information that it's required in order for them to perform the job, yeah, that is very, very, very convenient for an adversarial regime. How does this person that it only has some knowledge as a TV personality, but has some level of corruption or has been in trouble before, is going to be affecting the USA, or how is that going to be benefiting another regime? Yeah, put somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about in a particular position of power. Yes, that is very, very convenient for an adversarial regime, not to the USA. A cabinet position is not supposed to be a rubber stamp. It's supposed to be somebody that is not going to be a loyalist. It's going to be somebody who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about. That's what you want. That's what we need. So hopefully that makes sense for this season finale. I've been really wanting to give you guys this level of information because it's important. I told you this over and over again. I know this shit. That's why I create all these resources. They're free. They're for you to use them. Either if you're independent media, if you're not independent media, they're here for you. Those resources exist for you. So I've written also in my books, Authoritarianism and Propaganda, the Puppet Master Tools, and Woke and Proud, the Charlatans Inconvenience. And those are for you to understand how propaganda actually works throughout history. They're nonfiction, thought-provoking books. They are not long reads for you to be able to assimilate as fast as possible all this situation. They're not meant to be read only once. They're meant to challenge your mind. They are meant to make you think in a way that you have not been allowed to think for a very long time. That's what they've been written that way. And something similar with my websites, www.halflifecrisis.com. Go to the article sections and read all this information. I've been placing this thing for you guys for years. This information has been telegraphed for years. There's a lot of clickbait and shit that they put anywhere else. I got rid of all that. It's just for you to really understand what are the facts. So you don't have to be going crazy trying to figure out how we got here. It's there for you. And my other website, www.infoincontext.com, that is a resource. It's an educational resource for you to see how does propaganda takes a foothold into the rest of the world, certainly the USA, and how to defeat it, and to understand what are the techniques in order for you to break free from all that. This podcast was for you to understand it a little bit more. It's actually a time capsule. It is created to be able to express in some way with the level of urgency that it deserves, even with the F-bombs or whatever, that I had to add here. Yeah, whatever, that is the case. That is my way to communicate, and that's how I chose to do it. The next season is going to be starting next Friday, 29 November. So who knows, by the time that you are watching this thing is already out there. But meanwhile, if you see it before, I'll be posting a whole bunch of shorts to recap what we've learned here and to help you think about what is the next the next steps. If you think that you just can ride the next 4 years like it was nothing, I probably should recommend you to read the Diary of Anne Frank, or start seeing what happened during World War II and see the rise of Mussolini. Understand, that this is not the kind of shit that you just can write without understanding what's going on, just like putting your hand in the sand. It's not how it works. The adversarial forces want you to give up, want you to start watching something that is entertaining and not actually paying attention to what is the reality, while they're actually setting a stage for you to never be able to essentially enjoy what you're enjoying right now and what you're taking for granted. So this is becoming more evident with the choices that Trump is having for his cabinet. He's not getting qualified people, he's getting loyalists. That's what seems to be the metric. Call them out on that. Hey, let's get somebody qualified to have as a person that is going to be in that area. Particularly if you have a Secretary of Defense, you want somebody who actually knows what the fuck is going on. You don't want just somebody who was a loyalist because you like what he fucking says on TV. That is not good for the country. It's great for the adversarial nations. Oh yeah, that's fucking, yeah, it's a huge gift for them, but not for the USA. You have to understand these kind of things. You have to be able to hold the person that you adore the most. You have to be able to hold this person accountable, because that person that you chose works for you and for all of us, not just for the Americans that he likes, not just for the little Americans that he wants to keep in his inner circle. for all Americans. That is the position of the USA. That is the position of the cabinet. Is not to work for one person under loyalty. Is to work for the entire USA. Is not a job. Is a duty. You understand? It's different. To have a job, okay, you can just quit, okay, you do whatever the fuck you want. When you have a duty, it's because you have an oath to the USA. Your allegiance is to the USA, not to a person. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, it doesn't matter, because the negative effects are going to affect you either way. So the same way, okay? So all these things that I'm warning you about, they're going to affect you the same way. I've been warning all these fucking people in these other media outlets that they don't listen to, and they continue being reactive. Yeah, they didn't believe it. They didn't want to hear it. And now what they're actually doing, they're living with the fucking consequences that they refuse to understand. As I say, this season is really just a time capsule. So if you want to share with others, that would be great, because at least we can be proactive instead of being reactive for once. But in any case, one of the things that you're going to realize is that everything that I'm telling you for this last 9 season, this nice episode of this first season, you can independently verify that. You can look for it. You cannot agree with me if you don't want to. It doesn't matter, because it's real. Just go and start looking for that. Prove me wrong. Try to see if you can prove me wrong. You won't be able to. You won't be able to prove me wrong. You might not like the way that I fucking was talking to you. It doesn't matter, because I'm the only friend that you have. I'm telling you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Even if by the time that you hear these things, it's going to be too late. At least you know that somebody was in your corner, even if you didn't listen. Then the question is, what are you going to do next? Take care, guys. See you in the next season.